Howdy and good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, August 27th, and the time is 6 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. We do have a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order. We will be convening into executive session in the first floor conference room. At the end of the executive session, I'll come back out and announce that we're moving into work session, at which time the public will be invited to join us. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. We adjourned from executive session at 6:24 p.m., and we're going to open work session at 6:25. The public is invited and welcome to join us. Thank you very much.
I want to finish this before this too.
Mark, can you hear us? Yeah. Can you speak back to us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you. We struggle with our links,
Yeah, said they're 8.
and I'm speaking from experience.
You would think.
No fault of anybody's fault, I'm just saying.
I would get stuck. I would squeeze through.
That brownie cookie thing was good.
Yeah,
it sure was.
I had the sampler platter.
I know you ate all three, I know, but I'm like, you work out like every day, and you have a metabolism that
Mark.
I had 30 years ago,
I
so.
know, it's so sad.
I know,
Read
so I'm
the
like,
news.
shh, you don't.
Hey, Mark. Mark.
Mark,
Can you say something again?
you're on mute.
How can we hear him?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Yay, that's better.
Okay, well, you sound
Yeah.
impressive back in the main hall there.
A little bit.
Can you turn it up a little bit more, Manny?
I didn't hear.
All right, Mr. Hill, one more time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, it's very.
We
I think
were,
you sound great, Mark.
we were raising your volume so we could hear you. Okay, the time is 6:30 PM. We're into work session. We have 3 agenda items. The first one is discussion regarding the agenda. The Mayor Pro Tem is going to recuse himself from consent agenda item D, so we will need to pull that and consider it separately. Anybody have any other items on the agenda?
Did you say B or D?
D as in
Oh,
dog.
D, okay.
As in
Stabilization.
design and build emergency repair
Gotcha.
contract.
I'm good.
All right, looks like we're okay there. Going to move on to item B, which is a discussion regarding the emergency management. Chief Richardson?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I'm here this evening with some staff members, and we're going to provide you with a brief overview of what emergency management is, why our division exists, and how we're going to work to keep our community safe and resilient, especially during disasters. So emergency management is a division of the fire department. Most people think the fire department is fire only, but it's an all hazards approach, so we handle everything from natural disasters to environmental emergencies and whatever else we need to manage. But beyond all the technical aspects, it's basically fundamentally the same. We're protecting lives, saving property, and protecting the environment in that order. That's primarily what we do. So in doing so, we're ensuring that 2 things, that the continuity of government remains intact, we're able to provide services, while we're working the disaster and emergency at the same time. So it's twofold, making sure we're. So today we're going to cover 3 basic key areas. We're going to provide some basic knowledge, some understanding of some key principles and terminology. So we'll cover some of that. Talk about purpose and responsibilities. This is what we do, what our responsibilities are, and how we integrate with other cities, the region, the state, and some other agencies. And we'll talk about some role of the elected officials and cover that and how important it is for us and our leadership to understand for our success. So by the end of the brief presentation, I hope we leave you with a clear sense of how emergency management supports the community and how we all work together to make it successful. So what I'd like to do is introduce to you Jennifer Bettis. She is our emergency management coordinator, and she functions within the fire department. And she's going to take over and provide a brief summary. You're welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having me today. As Chief Richardson said, my name is Jennifer Bettis. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator. I've been with the city for about 3 years, and I've spent that 3 years really studying where we were at, where we want to go, and really looking at what emergency management is for the city of Coppell. So I'm pleased to be able to be here today and kind of just give you an overview of what it is that we do. Emergency management is the administrative function charged with creating and maintaining a framework to help the community reduce vulnerability and increase resilience to hazards. That's a really long and fun federal emergency management definition. In a nutshell, our team builds and sustains the citywide foundation that ensures a seamless and comprehensive approach to handling disasters and crisis. We coordinate across the city and community to develop plans and procedures that make managing emergencies as seamless as possible. We work within many legal authorities, which we will touch briefly upon during this presentation. One of the biggest ones within the state of Texas is Chapter 418 of the Texas Government Code, which provides the foundation for emergency management and the legal requirements in the state of Texas. It's also known as the Texas Disaster Act, so you may hear me refer to it as that. The phrase that I like to use for our emergency management program and how we develop our program is one city, one plan, one voice. We are working to continuously ensure that we're developing our framework with the goal in mind that we're working together citywide off the same blueprint. Our office, as Chief Richardson said, is housed within the fire department. We're fully staffed at 2 full-time staff members and a part-time intern. This is our day-to-day blue skies organizational chart. What's important to note about this is that while we're housed in the fire department, we do consider ourselves a resource for the entire city, working closely with all departments to enhance preparedness and response capabilities. As I reviewed this presentation last night and today, I realized the words framework, structure, processes, procedures, plans are in here a lot. And ultimately, that's because that's the backbone and the foundation of what emergency management is. Our emergency management serves as the coordination element for the city, relying on all the people, the resources, the support, and the collaboration from all the other departments and our partnerships with community partners such as MetroCrest, Coppell ISD, businesses, churches, and our residents. Emergency management as a profession is really an ongoing cycle of planning, response, mitigation, and recovery. It's important to note that emergency management is very tailored to the community. No two emergency management agencies are the same. In Coppell, we are very integrated into the organizational structure. Our approach is proactive, and we are constantly refining processes based on real-world incidents, large, small, or even planned events. For example, 2 Sundays ago, we were notified that during the 107-degree heats, we had a transformer outage, and we had 2 separate power outages. Each of those power outages had about 1,000 customers out of power, with one of the estimated restoration times as being 11 p.m. While there was no action necessary at that point in time, we did make some notifications so that our teams were aware of the situation and that we could proactively respond if those outages were not resolved in a timely manner. So our goal is proactive management, staying ahead of those potential crises, and constant vigilance and refinement. While we're not 24/7, we monitor quite anything that's going on in the Metroplex area. Another example of emergency management being a cycle, during and after each incident, big or small, we conduct after-action reviews where we reviewed what happened with our partners, what went well, what could be improved upon next time, and we begin that process, that cyclical process of planning how to do better the next time. Emergency management is complex, large in scope, and does involve the entire community. We've taken the overall charge of developing our emergency management program and focusing on 5 main areas to define our program. In the spirit of time tonight, we're going to develop into emergency planning and response and recovery for that brief overview. But we do not want to discard that we do training and exercise, public outreach, and we also manage quite a bit of the city radio systems. Emergency planning is where we spend a majority of our time. Our city foundational plan is an all-hazards comprehensive emergency management plan consisting of a basic plan, 20 functional annexes, and other hazard-specific annexes. We are constantly reviewing those annexes and determining where we need to strengthen or develop new annexes to support our operations. For example, for this past year, we've been working on and testing an annex for reunification if an emergency occurs during Camp Do-It-All, which is our city-hosted summer and holiday camp. Other plans worked on throughout the year include our continuity of operations plan and incident and event action plans. We strive to have our plans be living documents, embedded into our daily processes to ensure preparedness is a continuous effort. We review those plans for the action items that we say that we as a city are going to do and make those part of our processes and our checklists. We're also currently working on digitalizing the continuity of operation plan so that departments have easy access as personnel and processes change. Again, we do not want plans to be sitting on a shelf collecting dust. This supports us being more efficient and enhances long-term preparedness. Emergency planning is constantly evolving, and we work to not only keep up with those changes, but develop processes to implement those changes into the framework. One of the ways that we work through the city is through the Emergency Management Working Group. Representatives of the Emergency Management Working Groups are from departments across the city and are generally designated as our liaisons to work with to review and update and create new plans. They help us to understand their operations and provide their subject matter expertise so that our plans are relevant and actionable. Again, we want to make sure our plans are living documents. We review and update the Emergency Management Working Group annually, and as people and process, people change through attrition. This same team is our group of primary responders. When an incident does occur, the fact that they have helped to develop the processes, tested the procedures, and helped directly with the development of our structure ensures that when we need them, They know what to do. And several of them are here in the audience today, and they wanted to make sure that I made sure that they were aware. We are also probably best known in our city, aside from the weather, for the Emergency Operations Center. Our Emergency Operations Center is a cornerstone of our response efforts, allowing us to coordinate citywide during emergencies as efficiently as possible. We have a physical EOC at Life Safety Park, and we have a virtual 24/7 Emergency Operations Center that serves as our digital platform for coordination, tracking, developing data points, and reports for the situation. We have and continue to train our emergency management working group and other subject matter experts on working in our EOC to ensure that we are working as one city, one plan, one voice. Our EOC can work in a command or a support position. If our first responders have a large incident, we can activate the EOC to support them in any cascading impacts from that incident. During a snowstorm or other citywide event, we can activate as a command entity to coordinate resources citywide. We also activate in a monitoring condition when any time severe weather or any other incident is potential to impact the city. Some of the recent activations that we have had have been Celebrate Coppell. We activated for the solar eclipse due to the regional wide impacts potential for that event. Plantation Drive gases incident, where we had around 11 residents displaced for an extended period of time. We had 11 fiscal year 2024 severe weather activations. That included any time that the city was under a severe thunderstorm or any kind of watch or warning. We also helped manage the 2023 water emergency. Another key understanding in response and recovery is our involvement with the emergency warning. Coppell is equipped with 23 outdoor warning sirens, strategically placed to have the most coverage for our residents. These sirens are specifically for alerting those outdoors so they can seek indoor shelter. For residents inside their homes, our Notify Coppell system is the primary method for emergency alerts, and we are continuously working with marketing and communications to enhance its reach and effectiveness. In 2022, we were awarded our Storm Ready certification by the National Weather Service. We were awarded this by having a comprehensive approach to receiving, processing, and disseminating emergency warning. So that was a very quick and brief overview of our emergency management system and some structures within the city. I'm going to pivot now to a bit more of local authorities and your involvement with the structure. The main one is Chapter 418 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Disaster Act. This law defines what a disaster is, who has the legal authority to declare disasters. It explains the Texas organizational structure, requirements regarding the emergency management program at the state, local, and county levels. Chapter 418 is revised frequently, and we work to keep up with those changes and implement those new requirements. Most recently, the requirement to conduct wellness checks was added in 2021, and during the May 28th storm this year, we actually conducted and did wellness checks for our members that were part of the State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry in accordance with this law. The Stafford Act is the federal law for disasters. It constitutes the statutory authority for the federal disaster response and recovery activities as they pertain to FEMA and FEMA programs. As you are aware, laws can be complex and complicated. One clear thing in disasters and emergency laws is that all disasters start and end locally. So no matter how complicated the emergency and the law is, we must build our framework around these laws, because at any point in time, we could have every agency from state and federal agencies, we call them the alphabet soup, working on our emergency. When they leave, it's still our emergency, it's still our community, and it's still our residents. Chapter 418 and the Stafford Act address how and when to declare a disaster. The issuance of a disaster declaration allows public officials to exercise emergency powers to preserve life, property, and public health following an emergency. A declaration is a formal statement by a jurisdiction that a disaster has exceeded the response and recovery capabilities. Although a disaster is commonly addressed after a disaster, a declaration could be made if one is found to be imminent. Some of the emergency powers and the reasons for a disaster declaration are included: ordering an evacuation, controlling access to an area, temporarily suspending certain regulations and deadlines, and requesting federal financial aid for recovery projects. The most common reason jurisdictions issue a declaration is that some federal financial assistance can be made available to both individuals and state and local jurisdictions so that we can begin the process of recovery. In Texas, it must be stated that receiving a presidential declaration is particularly challenging. And the reason of this is because of thresholds. The FEMA threshold is $4.60 per capita. The threshold for Texas is over $53 million in uninsured losses. After the state threshold is met, individual counties must meet by meeting their own threshold. Dallas County's threshold is over $12 million of uninsured losses. We looked at our organizational chart for the Blue Sky Days. We spend those days during the calm period to ensure our effectiveness, so when it turns gray, we're ready. This is a quick organizational chart and notification chart of what it looks like when we begin emergency response. I want to point out that communication is a bit singled out at the bottom, and the reason for that is that with the speed of social media and mass media, we always want to make sure that they are aware, and so they're one of my first phone calls. We want to make sure that they are prepared to tell our story, no matter what that story is. Ultimately, in response, our team activates to support the incident and then to support the needs of the incident commander, and then working with the guidance if necessary, with guidance set from the policy group and the council. Kind of to delve into that, when an incident does occur, again, we have the incident command, they are in charge of the incident. For example, if we had a large warehouse fire, the fire department would be the incident command and developing their boots on the ground, the response plan. As cascading impacts occur, emergency management would activate to support the needs of the incident command, such as road closures, evacuation, emergency notifications, and other just resources necessary. When that incident then impacts city operations, we rely on the policy group, which is our directors and above, to set parameters and make citywide decisions, such as delayed opening, closures, fiscal parameters, and to set the guidance on how the rest of the city is to support the incident. Your leadership as elected officials is critical at every phase of emergency management. Your proactive involvement sets the tones for the city's preparedness and resilience. So I want to thank you for inviting us here today to give you this brief overview. By working together and staying proactive, we can ensure that Coppell remains well prepared, safe, resilient, no matter what challenges come our way. Taking an active interest in emergency preparedness allows for informed policy guidance and understanding of what you can expect when and if an emergency occurs. In my career field as a whole, support for emergency management tends to be more reactive in nature. However, proactive support before the disaster strikes reduces risk and ultimately allows for more efficient response and recovery. So that is a quick overview of emergency management, the laws, and your roles and responsibilities. Overall, the intent of this presentation was just to give you a very quick understanding of our office, what we do in Blue Sky Days, and how we're always preparing for those grayer sky days, and how we all play a part in the preparedness and readiness of our community. Any questions or comments?
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And I hate to do this to you, but I've been planning to ask Mike the question, so since you're here, I'm going to ask you directly.
Oh no.
It's not, I think you actually have the answer. So I've often wondered how many individual plans or action, I think you call them annexes, do we have for, you know, how many different sets of conditions do we have written plans for?
So we have officially 20 annexes in a base plan. And then we have hazard specifically, when we have specifically the winter weather or severe weather one, so that's our base plan. And then we're starting to work on other plans such as the warming and cooling station plans or the family assistance center, family reunification, and then the can't do it all plans. So I would consider those all annexes, although they may not be considered hazard specific annexes. They're more incident specific rollout plans.
Okay, thank you. Ramesh?
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer, thanks for the information. I like that proactive comment that you threw in there. Proactively, what is it that the council can do to take your services to the next level?
So There is training available for elected officials for the state of Texas, as well as some tantalizing independent study classes from FEMA. They're great, but they provide
We're
a.
available for tutoring.
You can Google the answer. No, but ultimately those provide a understanding of our structure in the incident command world, to understand that when an emergency does occur, what is expected of our first responders. And then that elected official class delves more into, I think the state has a 3-hour one, as well as some additional ones that allows for understanding of more of the legal authorities.
Mayor, I was expecting Jennifer to talk about infrastructure resources. It appears that our ignorance is the biggest challenge.
I would suggest we could do a tabletop. Once we get some training, there's different exercises and things that we can absolutely do. And I welcome the participation from the leadership.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. You mentioned the transformer went out Sunday, right? 1,000 people got out of power. What specifically UOC did to benefit the residents?
What did we do to benefit the residents? So that was on a Sunday afternoon, and I logged on to Encore, looked at what the outage was, and made notifications to our fire department. Basically, at that point in time, there's nothing we could do. The ETA of the restoration was 11 p.m., but I was getting notifications that some power was flickering on, people were coming off. So we were just making notifications for in case it was 107 and the power was going to be out, and what some of the considerations would have done. If they would have continued on, I would have made further notifications to the policy group to make a determination. How are we going to support? Do we need a cooling center opened? What are we going to do to open the core to support what that looks like?
Did we make any communication to the public as an outreach?
We did not, because we consider that necessarily an encore, but I had prepared Hannah for, hey, we have this, let's start potentially a communication. And as soon as I did that, about 10 minutes later, the outage was corrected. So again, we were already starting to have that initial discussion of, do we want to send a message out that, again, this is Encore, this is how to find out the information and lead them to the information of the problem holder, which is Encore.
Thank you.
I had a whole list of questions, and you actually answered most of them while you were going through your presentation. Could you walk us through an incident that we've done? I was thinking of the power outage at the pump station. You know, I know that we originally got notified like at 3 or 3:30 in that morning, you know, so where did you come in, and what did your day look like that day?
It was fun. No, that one was a really good one. So we were notified. I believe Public Works messaged me at about 4:30 or 5 and said, hey, we need to potentially have some messaging out. We need to conserve some water. My response back was, are we going under a water boil notice? And at that point in time, I already knew the answer, and it was, we're potentially, I think at that point in time, Kumar was a little bit hesitant to say we were. That being said, I kind of knew, so we began that notification process and activation of the Emergency Management Working Group. I activated the EOC. We began heading in. The number one priority at that point in time was making sure that we had enough water to put out structure fires. And so began that as our initial, making sure that we could support life-saving measures. So life safety came first on that one. So we began coordinating, and Chief Richard can speak to that, but we intentionally were pulling fire departments in from Justin and I think Ponder potentially. They were pulling their tankers in so that we had water within the city for the purpose of life safety. So we activated the EOC, began making notifications, began having conference calls with our team, and making sure that we had our incident objectives, what we wanted to do, laid out. Coordinated that with the policy group, the director group, make sure that we were on par. I think I talked to Mike Garza about every 15 minutes, wondering, you know, when our test was coming back and what we were doing. But so we stayed active through that time period, developed reports. understood then that we needed to, and it probably wasn't a need at this point in time, we decided to activate a point of distribution early on in the incident because we did not know how long it would be. So we began acquiring water, so calling and finding water from different locations. The state could not help us until we had exhausted local resources. So I had to have exhausted every bottle of water from every grocery store in our city as well as around before the state would come in and help, because we made that call. And so acquiring water, coordinating the distribution of that water, in a safe and effective manner. I think we were at 105-degree heats that day, so safety was also an issue. And then just making sure that the needs of the citizens and the community messaging was going out. So it's a whole lot of things coming in, and a lot of people. I call the emergency management as kind of that central hub, and everybody's working to develop a really well-defined spider web kind of approach.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions? Something that we've struggled with, you said that you try to approach social media. Who do you call?
Hannah.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you had some secret network of social media.
I do, Hannah.
Hannah.
And now Maria. I call, and they will laugh because they will wake up, I think on that exact day, they'll wake up, and when they see more than one phone call or message from me, they know it is not going to be a blue sky day. So I will make sure that my phone calls get answered.
Okay. Council, any other questions? If you have not toured the EOC, I would invite anyone to head over there and take a look. It's preferably when it's not working, but it's a very impressive site, so thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3, or C, is a discussion regarding the workforce transit. Ms. Hartley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here this evening to update City Council on ridership data for the Workforce Transit Program and to seek direction on renewing the current interlocal agreement. So I'll start by, I'll provide a brief history of the program in a few minutes, but as a quick update on our current contract, the city is currently in the 11th month of a 12-month interlocal agreement with Denton County Transportation Authority to administer a workforce transit program. The current ILA will expire on September 30th of this year. And just kind of how the partnership works, DCTA administers the contract and handles all administrative functions for the program for the city of Coppell, and Lyft provides the first mile, last mile connectivity between designated transit stops and Coppell businesses. The program is open to all Coppell businesses and their employees, and tonight we need direction from City Council to see if you're interested in renewing the interlocal agreement for another 12 months. DCTA staff will also be going to their board to seek approval of to renew the contract as well. And so if City Council would like to continue this program, we will bring back the the ILA for formal approval at your next meeting, and then will go into effect on October 1st. So just to give you a brief history of the program, this program was created in response to concerns from Coppell businesses about their inability to attract employees due to a lack of public transportation in Coppell. So after a considerable amount of research and reviewing all the possible options, staff felt that the best solution was to offer a program that offered the greatest amount of flexibility for employees for their first mile, last mile connection. This program was established to help gauge the community's need for a permanent workforce transit program down the line as well. The information gathered would provide staff with the data needed to determine a long-term solution for Coppell. And the current partnership with DCTA and Lyft was the end result of all that research and review that we did. And so the initial interlocal agreement ran from October 1st, 2019 to September 30th of 2020. The cost breakdown of each ride at the time was as follows. The rider pays the first $2, the city pays the next $15, and then the rider covers any additional costs beyond that. So since that time, City Council has renewed the ILA with those same terms. with DCTA 4 times to continue the service that has been beneficial to both the businesses and their employees. This map shows you the 6 transit stops that Lyft currently picks up from. So again, travel must occur between one of these locations in the geographical boundaries of Coppell for the workforce transit codes to work. The current ILA began on October 1st of 2023 and will expire on September 30th of this year. Ridership data has proven or shown to us that the program has been utilized and has experienced gradual growth since its inception in 2019. So just a few things that we've learned. We've learned that riders are coming from all 6 of the designated transit stops. Riders are traveling to a variety of businesses in Coppell, so small, medium, and large businesses have employees that are utilizing the program. Riders are using the service 7 days a week at all times of the day, and the heaviest concentration of use is on the west side, but we continue to see growth of use on the east side as well. So that brings us to today. And so you can see the chart with ridership data over the past years and then where we're projected that it will go this year. So we had a total of 1,392 rides in fiscal year 1920, a total of 2,277 rides in fiscal year 2021, a total of 2,281 rides in fiscal year 21-22, a total of 2,300 rides during fiscal year 22 and 23, and then based on the ridership for the past 10 months, that's all we have reported so far of this current ILA, we believe that the ridership will hit around 2,425 rides before the end of this current fiscal year. The program is part of both our business attraction and our business retention efforts. This program has helped employees who would otherwise walk to work or seek employment in other locations where they would have public transportation. So far this year, we've spent approximately $39,333. And again, that's through June. We haven't received our invoices for July and obviously August and September yet. There's been a total expenditure of approximately $165,382 since the inception of the program. So that's approximately $33,000 a year over the 5 years. And staff is requesting to renew the ILA for an additional 12 months to continue the program through September 30th of 2025. We've also already included funds in the current or the upcoming proposed budget, so if you all want to continue, we have included those dollars in the proposed budget. And if City Council is agreeable to the extension, we will bring the ILA back for formal approval at your next meeting. All other aspects of the program will remain the same unless directed otherwise. And just a few things we plan to do this year. So we do plan to refresh the marketing materials this year and we did a active communication outreach to the businesses this year, but we're going to refresh the marketing materials and do that again. We're going to reevaluate ridership to each station to see if those are still the appropriate stations that need to be included. And then we're going to work with the businesses to make sure their employees are using the business-specific codes so we can track data. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. When I was part of the chamber, the larger top companies definitely were very appreciative of this. So I'm in support of that. Since most of these folks don't have a car when they're in Coppell, have we done any study to see if they would like to catch a ride to eat lunch or go to a spa or a gym?
We have not done that study, but that's certainly something we could do this year. If you all are open to that.
I would be interested in that, Mayor.
Keep in mind that in 2019, we authorized expenditures of up to $100,000 for this program, which seemed to be reasonable, and then COVID hit. So that was a very slow start to the program. Kevin?
Thank you very much for the presentation. So I heard you talk about refreshing the marketing materials, but could you explain it? Like, how are you getting the word out to small, medium, and large businesses. I mean, it's obviously a wide spectrum but how are we getting the word out about this program?
So we did do a direct mail piece to every business in Coppell this year. When we did our job fair, we brought all the information to the job fair for job seekers to be aware. And then at all the chamber meetings, we do present the information so that way those that are there will have that information. So we've run things on social media before. So we're trying to do outreach as much as possible, but we plan to do a direct mail piece again this year. So
That direct mail piece, does that go to Coppell citizens?
goes to the businesses.
I mean, I'm sorry, it goes to all the Coppell, sorry, I misspoke, yeah, the Coppell businesses.
Yes, sir.
So, okay.
Do you see,
All right.
sorry,
No, go
do
ahead.
you see an uptick after you do those?
After this year, we had several businesses that signed on that had not participated before.
Bijou?
Thank you, Mayor. Mendy, thanks for the presentation. In your memo, it states that we pick up people from Dart, Trinity Mill Station, and Hebron Station. Do we have an itemized list where people are using it from?
So we don't have where they're dropping off at, but we do, that's why the businesses have specific codes, so we can try to track it that way. Unfortunately, when the program started, we were limited on the number of codes that we could give, so we had some very broad generic codes. We are transferring to specific codes for each business, so that's where I said we're gonna work with the businesses this year to make sure their employees are using their specific code rather than the broad code. But they do have information on where they're picking up from, so in terms of the transit stops. So that's where we're gonna reevaluate to make sure that those still make sense. But what we did is we picked locations surrounding Coppell so that way we could capture riders from any direction.
Is it possible to find out who's using it? Where I'm getting is resident versus non-residents, who's utilizing this program more?
Well, since it's coming from transit stops, my assumption is non-residents are using it more. Now, with that being said, I believe we do have a few residents that are using it today, specifically some that are working at the school district.
Are there repeated customers? Are they?
We don't have that information, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Just a quick question, kind of like a future outlook of the program. Obviously, with the Silver Line coming in and the new Dart Station in Cypress Waters coming online, do you have any thoughts about like what that will do to the program? Any projections, and then how does that affect? I know probably won't be in effect for this year, but I imagine next year we may be having a different conversation if we move forward and approve this plan.
So we do think ridership will increase once the Silver Line opens. It's a closer distance for them to travel, but it's still not safe for them to walk to their location from there. So we do think we'll see an increase. We are in the process right now trying to talk to the businesses to see if they have any estimation of where their employees are coming from. We haven't had a great response yet, but we're going to keep trying to get that information to see if we can kind of gauge if that will result, if they think it will result in more riders. So
then I guess follow-up to that is, so you know, the council's been basically like 50,000 a year at a time over the past couple of years. Is there any monetary or ridership threshold that we're looking at where maybe Lyft does not become the best solution, and then does that look like potentially partnering with some sort of like regular transportation route, or you know, purchasing of a shuttle perhaps or something like that? What does that future outlook look like for this program?
So that's part of what this data gathering was going to tell us. And so I don't think we have enough yet to make that determination, but we are in the process of looking at some, I don't want to speak out of turn, but autonomous vehicles that maybe could do some fixed routes. I don't know that it will replace this necessarily. It may just work in conjunction with it. So,
but lots of options on the table.
Yeah,
and obviously it's a lot of unknowns.
We've continued to study different options. Right now, this is just the most flexible, and so we feel like it's the right approach right now. But we may come back with a different suggestion in the future. So,
Excellent. Thank you.
Jim?
So, great job as usual, Mindy. So is Lyft written into the ILA by Denton County?
They are. That is their partner. That's who they worked with in other cities, so that's who they felt comfortable going with. I don't know if there's another option for a different, I know that DCTA now works with VIA. And I'm not sure, and so we have had some conversations about that, if that would be the appropriate transfer for us at some point. But
Yeah.
we're just
I mean,
not there yet.
I have no idea who would be best or cheaper or whatever, but I was just curious if, so we're not negotiating separately with Lyft. Lyft is written into the ILA at Denton County's discretion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know how many of the fares or the rides, or what do you call them, each individual, how many of those go over the $15 limit?
So they give us the average cost per ride, but we're just getting a large invoice. We're not seeing each ride broken down. They all hover in the $15 range, but there are sometimes if you've ridden Lyft, the time of day, the distance, obviously, all those things factor into the rate at the time that they're driving. So there have been occasions where it's gone a little higher, but on average, it's less than $15.
So, and I guess where I was going was, most of the riders then are not incurring any additional expense besides the initial two, is that correct?
Mostly. I mean, there are some, but mostly
Okay,
it's less, yeah.
thank you. Don?
What other cities partner with DCTA for a similar program? Are there a number of cities?
There are, because when we approached DCTA, they already had a similar program, so I don't want to
Or do
lie
you
to you
know
and tell you.
Who some of the other
I
cities are?
believe they were doing a similar program at Alliance Airport
Okay.
at the time. It's been 5 years ago, so I
Okay,
don't remember who all was in initially, but since then, they have several others, so that's where they do utilize VIA in some other cities right now.
Okay.
So they're exploring all of their options. I
Yeah,
will
they-
tell you, we also tried to work with DART, and DART was not interested, so that's why we ended up going with DCT.
Yeah, that's probably fine. They, I'm just curious what other feedback we might get from other cities, like how they're utilizing it, what kind of utilization do they have, and things like that. So just curious.
Yeah.
about
We
talking to
also worked
DCTA.
heavily with COG because they handle it on the regional level, so this was also part of their recommendation to go this route. So we probably should do that this year also, is check back with them to see if things have shifted,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, thanks. I'm supportive, Mayor, if you wanted to know. If you're interested in knowing.
Mayor, if I remember the numbers correctly, I think we served about 2,500 folks and we ended up spending 25,000, so that's about $10 a ride. So,
You're right. It was 24, 25 riders, and the cost was 24,000, so you're right. It was right at 10. Thank you. Sometimes math is good.
Math is never good.
Hey, you guys are careful. All right, any other questions for Mindy? You,
I'm thumbs up.
thumbs up?
Oh, yeah,
I
absolutely.
think we're good on this one.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll have it back in front of you next council meeting.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right, the time is 7:13, and we are at the end of work session. We will move into the council's chambers at 7:30.
Hopefully so.
Is it part of the time? No.
Good afternoon, everybody. The time is 7:30 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. I would like to remind everyone that Councilmember Mark Hill is attending by Zoom on the screen, and I apologize to him in advance if I miss a question coming from him. I'm sure somebody will remind me. Any persons wishing to speak during our citizens' appearance or our public hearings must sign the appropriate register located outside the council chambers and list your address. This evening we have Alicia Hewitt with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to give the invocation, and then we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing. Alicia?
Patience and to help us to work together. We ask, Father, that thou would give everyone in this room a calm and peaceful sense of purpose and the ability to work together towards the betterment of this wonderful community. We love thee. We're grateful for this beautiful place that we live, the wonderful community that we have, people that work together and take care of one another. We ask that thou would continue to watch over us and help us to move forward. And we say these things in thy holy name. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Item number 6 is our citizens' appearance, and persons wishing to speak must sign the register and list your home address. Presentations by individuals shall be limited to 2 minutes each, and individual speakers' time may be extended for an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council members present. Persons signed up to speak will be called in the order that they signed up. No personal attacks by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, mayor, individual group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberations from the City Council due to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Once the timer sounds at 2 minutes, the City Secretary will cut in and make the request of the Mayor and the Council if we would like to extend the speaker's time for an additional 2 minutes. We do have 2 individuals that have signed up to speak tonight. The first on the list is Mr. Dan Kohler.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Dan Kohler. I reside at 521 Anderson Avenue in the wonderful city of Coppell with my exquisitely beautiful wife and our 2 breathtakingly handsome sons. One of those teenage heartbreakers is a football player for Coppell High School, which is how I found myself named the communications director for the Coppell Cowboys Football Booster Club. And in that capacity, I would like to invite all of you and your dozens of online viewers to Buddy Eccles Field on Friday night for the Varsity Cowboys home opener against the Saxe Mustangs. The Cowboys will start taming those Mustangs at 7 o'clock, but be there early because the Coppell Lariats annual spaghetti dinner will start at 5. Stick around because former Lariats of all ages will perform at halftime, including one of your fellow elected officials, I am told. That's all I've got to say, other than 4 words that should be familiar to all of you, especially Mr. Neville's: cowboy fight never dies.
Thank you very much. Our second speaker tonight is Mr. Alex Stein.
Howdy, Mayor. My name's Alex Stein. I'm also a member of the Booster Club as well. And I'm here today for a very serious thing. It might sound like a joke. I don't want you guys to laugh.
Sir, Address, please.
Oh, it's 7509 Inwood Road. And this
Thank
is
you.
this is why I'm here, though, Mayor West. I'm talking to you man to man. As a booster of the Coppell Cowboys, I love that high school. I support the Cowboys so much. But what I don't support are the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm here with a petition that I would like it if we could change the name of the Coppell Cowboys to reflect a franchise that actually wins. The Dallas Cowboys stink. They have not been to an NFC Championship game in over 25 years. Jerry Jones sued his own daughter because she tried to say that he's her real father, and he is her biological father. And if Jerry Jones is too afraid to admit that he's got a daughter, then why do we think that he can run some football team? And it makes me sick. They signed Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott stinks. He just played for the Patriots. Now look at the Dallas Cowboys. When's the last time they were good? The last time they were good, starter jackets were in vogue at the time. Now starter jackets, nobody even wears them. The Dallas Cowboys stink, Mayor, and I want to change the Coppell Cowboys so we don't reflect a mediocre franchise. The Cowboys aren't going to the playoffs this year. They're going to be lucky to go 6-11, which I imagine they will. So I want you as the mayor to try to start a trend where we're not going to reflect that of a crappy NFL franchise with a bunch of players that beat their wives. Josh Brent, Dallas Cowboy player, killed his teammate drunk driving. They just signed C.D. Lamb. Jerry Jones said he's such a good GM, but yet he paid him all that money and had him miss the entire spring training. He didn't even participate in team drills, and yet he still paid him as the second highest non-quarterback in the NFL. So the Dallas Cowboys are misran, and I don't want you to misrun this city, Mayor West. I need you to show some support, and I need you to try to sign this petition so that we can stop being associated with a crappy franchise like the Dallas Cowboys, who have not been even close to championship caliber in almost 30 years. So I stand up here and I beg you, each and all of you council members, we have to denounce the Dallas Cowboys. Can I have 2 more minutes? 2 more minutes?
Just a moment. Go ahead.
Thank you. And this is why I love Coppell, because as a citizen here, I feel comfortable being able to speak freely because the Dallas Cowboys reflect this Metroplex. And then the fact that the Coppell Cowboys have their first game this Friday, everybody's going to be ringing the bell, go Cowboys, go Cowboys. I don't want to be associated with Jerry Jones and his sad excuse. I mean, if you look at Dak Prescott, heck of a player, but guess what? He's up for contract renewal, and we don't have franchise tag rights. So we're going to lose him, or we're going to have to pay him $75 million, which we can't afford because Jerry Jones doesn't know how to manage his checkbook. So I'm begging you, please, all of you people out here in Coppell, we have to denounce the Dallas Cowboys. They are the worst thing ever. I mean, it's enough that, my transgender daughter, Lizzie, has to go through all this embarrassment by, her peers. She does not need to have the embarrassment that she's associated with a franchise that is mediocre at best. So I just really appreciate y'all giving me the time to come up here and denounce the Dallas Cowboys. They stink. They haven't been good in nearly 30 years. And, half the team is a bunch of, ex-convicts. So we need a better caliber of kids. These kids that play for the Coppell Cowboys are salt of the earth. Great kids, great students. They don't deserve to be associated with a guy like Jerry Jones, who has a daughter that he sued because she just wants a little bit of that Jones family wealth. So that's how tight he is. So if he won't even pay his own daughter, imagine what he'll pay to these free agents. Nothing. And that's what the Cowboys did. They didn't sign one free agent this offseason that is worth a darn. So I'm sick and tired of it, and I'm just begging this city council that we have to change the name of the local high school team away from the Cowboys. We could be the Coppell Gender Kings. We can be the Coppell Kids. I don't know, but just something better because I get so dang sad. I turn on my TV and I've broken 7 TVs cheering on the dang Cowboys. I've broken 7 TVs. I just hate the Dallas Cowboys. They need to fix and win some games. They've broken my heart so much. I'm sorry, Mayor. I don't mean to get so emotional. I'm just upset with Jerry. I love you. I love you, Dak. Pay Dak Prescott. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments tonight.
You guys want to sign it? I'll give it to the bailiff.
Item number 7 is our consent agenda, which is routine in nature and is generally enacted in one motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget or past council action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. The Mayor Pro Tem has asked to be recused from item D, so we're going to be considering items A, B, C, and E at this time. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve agenda items, consent agenda items A through C and E.
Thank you. Second by Councilmember Prem Kumar. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Nels, Prem Kumar, and Matthew, all in favor. Motion carries. Oh, sorry, Mark. And Mark Hill, none opposed. Motion carries.
Okay. Up for consideration is consent agenda item D. I'll accept a motion. Councilmember Carroll?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda item D.
Second by Councilmember Prem Kumar. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Prem Kumar, Matthew, and Mr. Hill, all in favor. None opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Now, the Mayor Pro Tem was paranoid that no one was going to come get him. So could you retrieve him? Okay, item number 8 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Owens to read the item into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing to consider approval of a resolution granting a distance variance of 241 feet to St. Anne's Catholic Parish for a temporary event from the 300-foot prohibited requirement for the on-premise sale of alcoholic beverages with an address being 180 Samuel Boulevard and authorizing the mayor to sign. So thank you, Mayor. My name is Ashley Owens, and I serve as the city secretary. The item before you tonight, as I just read, is a public hearing to request a 241-foot distance variance for St. Anne's Catholic Church, specifically for their upcoming carnival. St. Anne's is located at 180 Samuel Boulevard, and for the past 2 years, City Council has granted the distance variance that allows St. Anne's to sell beer and wine at their annual carnival. Dates for this year's carnival will be September 6th through the 8th. So this slide shows an aerial site plan of St. Anne's with a 300-foot radius. As you can see, there are 2 schools and 1 church within 300 foot of the location of the carnival. Section 6-16-3 of the city's Code of Ordinances prohibits the sale of alcohol within 300 feet of a church, public or private school. Coppell Early Care and Education, located at 103 Samuel Boulevard, is located 59 feet away from St. Anne's, thus the need for a variance. The request for a variance is temporary, and if granted, the distance variance will begin at 12:01 a.m. for Thursday, September 5th, through 12:01 a.m. Monday, September 9th. St. Anne's is required to receive approval from local officials in order to obtain a TABC temporary event permit, and Section 6-16-4 of the Code of Ordinances speaks to council's discretion to allow for variances. So here is a aerial site plan of St. Anne's Carnival and the layout for different activities. The item in the red circle, it's kind of hard to read, but it says the parish pub. That is where the alcohol will be sold. The requester has been informed by the vendor that patrons are allowed to mingle and roam on the premises of St. Anne's with alcohol. They are not allowed to leave the premises with alcohol in hand. Again, I would like to remind council that the request for variance is temporary, and if granted, it will only cover the dates of the carnival. Notice of a public hearing is required and was placed in the Irving Rambler on August 17th, and as of today, I did not receive any feedback. I did speak with the manager at Coppell Early Care and Education regarding any concerns with the carnival selling alcohol, and the only concern that they expressed was about parking. The carnival is opening earlier than previous years, so they're opening at 5 instead of 6. The only concern was, would parents be able to park and go and get their children, or would they have to walk a long distance? So that was the only concern that she expressed to me. She did not have an issue with alcohol being sold. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, this is a resolution to grant a distance variance.
Thank you very much. Council, have any questions for Ms. Owens? Oh, Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Ms. Owens, thank you for that. Just for clarification, so people can purchase and walk around within the perimeters of the carnival with alcohol, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
And I presume they have security.
Yes, ma'am, they do. Coppell PD will also be on site.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing, and we did have one person signed up to speak, and that's actually, I think, the applicant, Mr. Whisker, Ken Whisker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, the council. I am the parish pub manager, so proud title. No, I've been with the Coppell Carnival for about 25 years, and we're happy to be a community-related event, and the last couple of years we have done this. So, I'm sorry, I live at 1510 Pebble Creek in Coppell. Forgot that. But I wanted to be here and answer any questions that you all had, so.
Well, I remember from last year, the big concern was, I think, did you have any incidents with people getting inebriated? And the answer was no. So it's
still the same.
It's a really rough crowd that you guys have out there.
Yeah, I think most people pop in, grab one beer, put it in the stroller, and head on out. So,
Council, you have any questions for Mr. Whisker? Oh, Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this just a beer and wine permit?
that is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for your support of the carnival. We hope to see you out there.
Council, any other comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing and approve item 8.
Thank you. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Nevels. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Prem Kumar, Matthew, and Hill, all in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 10 is also a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Tien to read the item into the record. That's what did I say?
You said 10, sir.
I'm sorry, this is item number 9. So I'll open the public hearing for item 9 and ask Ms. Tien to read item 9 into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed 2024-25 budget for the Coppell Crime Control and Prevention District. This is the first of 3 public hearings this evening. All 3, is it okay? All 3 are related to the proposed 24-25 budget and property tax rate. Okay. Good? Okay.
You're good.
Again, this is the first public hearing, and it is on the Crime Control and Prevention District. As required by Chapter 363 of the Local Government Code, the governing body that created the Crime Control District shall hold a public hearing on the budget adopted by the Crime Control Board. The board held a public hearing on June 11th of 2024. No citizens signed up to speak. The public hearing was closed, and the board approved the proposed budget. Before I present the Crime Control District budget, I would like to provide some history and background on the district. First, the Crime Control and Prevention District is a special purpose tax district created by Texas Code 363. It is designed to provide crime prevention programs and services to the community. The district is governed by a board of 7 members, which is currently the voting members of the City of Coppell City Council. The board is required to propose a budget, hold a public hearing, and adopt a proposed budget that is then presented to the governing body, the Coppell City Council, which is the purpose of the public hearing this evening. The Crime Control and Prevention District is created and authorized only if the district and sales tax are approved by a majority of the qualified voters and is considered a separate entity that is governed by Local Government Code Section 363. The election for the sales tax originally passed in November of 2007, and the district began collecting sales tax in April of 2008. The initial time period was for 5 years, which would have expired in April of 2013. But in November of 2011, the sales tax was reauthorized, but for a period of 10 years this time. And it had a new expiration date of April of 2023. The 0.25% sales tax for the crime reduction program was once again reauthorized for another 10-year period by voters in November of 2022. So the reauthorization now expires in April of 2033. And for the district to continue, the next vote must take place on or before November of 2032. Since the 0.25% sales tax is restricted or committed to expenditures for a specific purpose, the Crime Control and Prevention District is considered a special revenue fund of the City of Coppell. So now that you have some background and history on the Crime Control District, I will present the budget. This slide shows the revenues and expenditures for the Crime Control and Prevention District. A few items that I want to point out are that sales tax revenue is budgeted as if the change to Rule 3.334 is in effect. This budget includes the cost of all SROs with no reimbursement from the school district. Historically, the school district would reimburse 50% of the cost of the SROs. Staff did remove this reimbursement based on the direction of council. The budget also includes the full cost of an Axon contract, and it continues the joint ventures with our neighboring cities to effectively and efficiently provide E911 and jail service. I will point out the areas impacted by these items as I walk through the proposed budget. So beginning with the revenues, which is the graph on the left, the total Crime Control and Prevention District revenues are projected to be about $4.2 million for next fiscal year. Sales tax is the blue area of the chart on the left, and it is the primary revenue source for this fund, and it's estimated to be $3.9 million, or about 93% of total revenues of this fund. Again, sales tax is budgeted as if the Rule 3.334 is in effect. And so I'm going to take a moment to explain what is meant by budgeted as if the change to the rule is in effect. So the sales tax revenue in this budget is the amount of sales tax revenue that city staff believes will be collected should the comptroller be allowed to implement his proposed change to the sales tax rule. Historically, the Crime Control Prevention District has received on average about $6.5 million in sales tax annually. But because we know that the state wants to change the rule on how sales tax is paid by businesses, we are proactively budgeting sales tax revenue at a reduced level, a level determined by analysis and discussions with businesses concerning the impact of the rule change will have on how they pay sales tax. Because we reduced the budget for sales tax revenue in anticipation of the rule, we also reduced the expenditures budget. So what happens when we collect more sales tax revenue than what we budgeted? What happens is that sales tax revenue collected over the amount budgeted increases the fund balance of the fund. The fund balance is then used for one-time expenditures. For example, some of our partner cities are issuing bonds to pay their portion of the cost of land and the building for the Intech facility. Coppell is able to use fund balance to pay its share because the council has provided the policy direction that we were to build a budget based on sales tax revenue at a level consistent with the changes proposed by the comptroller. This is the approach we have taken with all funds that receive sales tax. For example, the general fund, the Coppell Recreation Development Corporation, and the Infrastructure Maintenance Fund. This approach has allowed the city to fully fund the Capital Replacement Fund and the Enterprise Solutions Replacement Fund. In addition, the fiscal year 25 proposed budget includes funding for the traffic system and facility projects identified for fiscal years 2025 through 2028. Projects that would likely require a bond issue if we were not able to use the available fund balance for those one-time projects. And I'll touch more on those when we get to those funds later this evening. So back to revenues budgeted for the Crime Control and Prevention District. So although we're budgeting as if the rule is in effect, we are budgeting an increase in sales tax revenue of 5% over the 2024 adopted budget based on the rising cost of goods, plus an increase for information the community development team has learned as they work with various businesses in the community. The remaining revenue is interest income, which is projected to be $300,000. Historically, revenue does again include the reimbursement from the school district for a portion of the cost of the SRO program, and as I mentioned, staff removed it, that reimbursement as council directed. So moving to expenditures, total crime control and prevention district expenditures are projected to be about $5.5 million for next fiscal year. Expenditures include almost $2 million for salary and benefits related to the SRO program. The number of SROs was increased from 8 to 13 in the fiscal year 24 budget as a result of the passage of House Bill 3 by the state. House Bill 3 requires the school board to ensure that at least one armed security officer be present during regular school hours at each district campus. Next, the services category, represented by the gray area of the chart on the right, totals approximately $3.1 million, or about 57% of the total budgeted expenditures. This category includes a 5-year contract totaling almost $1.7 million with Axon for body cameras, fleet cameras, tasers, maintenance, user licenses, and other related items. The fiscal year 2025 budget includes the full cost of the Axon contract. The process is to budget for the full amount of the contract. A purchase order would be created once the actual contract is approved by council, and then each year an annual payment of around $336,000 will be made with the remaining balance of the purchase order carried over into the future years as an encumbrance carryover. The services category also includes payments to the North Texas Emergency Communication Center for E911 dispatch services. This is a joint venture with the cities of Carrollton, Farmers Branch, and Addison. Also included in the services is a continuing contract with the city of Grapevine to provide jail services. These are 2 examples of cities working together to be good stewards of public funds through collaboration that more effectively and efficiently provides these services. Services also include a reimbursement to the general fund for administrative services. Administrative services are reimbursements that are part of a cost allocation study that provides reimbursement to the general fund for services rendered to the Crime Control and Prevention District Fund by departments that are included in the general fund. For example, the Crime Control and Prevention District does not staff for positions such as IT, accounts payable, or legal services, or HR, and instead it reimburses the general fund for those services. The next is the transfer category, which is the lighter gray section of the chart. It's about almost $160,000, or about 3% of overall expenditures. And this transfer is to the Capital Replacement Fund, and it is an annual transfer of 1 year of useful life of vehicles utilized by the school resource officers. So in summary, the proposed budgeted revenues for the fiscal year 24-25 are estimated to be $4.2 million. And the revenues, and the expenditures are 5.5. If we backed out the cost of the 5-year contract with Axon and only included 1 year of cost, expenditures would total approximately $4.1 million, resulting in revenues exceeding expenditures by a little over $100,000. Therefore, the actual cost of the year do not exceed revenues for the year. This is an overview of the Crime Control and Prevention District proposed budget for the fiscal year 24-25. This agenda item is the public hearing on the 24-25 proposed budget for the Coppell Crime Control and Prevention District, which is the governing body that created the district, is required by Chapter 363 of the Local Government Code to hold. The actual adoption of this budget will occur with the adoption of the entire city budget, scheduled for your consideration of approval later this evening. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and Chief Barton is available for questions too.
Thank you very much. Do you need to take a break? That was a lot of words.
That's a lot of words. No, I'm good. I have
Okay.
my water.
Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Tien? Councilmember Prem Kumar.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Tehan, you covered a lot of complex topics, and I'll tell you, I kind of understood everything you said, so thanks for doing a great job. I wanted to make two comments. The cost sharing with the neighboring cities on the E911 and the cost of jails. Thank you for making the best use of our city dollars. I hope we do more of that. And I wanted to make a comment on the budget sheet, if you can go back. Well, maybe you don't have it in the PowerPoint, but I understand that we have a healthy fund balance. And for the benefit of everyone listening in, sales tax is something that we cannot count on to be what we expect it to be, because people can decide not to spend. So it's good to have a healthy fund balance. So thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment that I know you mentioned about the removal of the reimbursement from Coppell ISD for the SROs. Just so everyone knows, because we are talking about expenditures and revenues, that it's my understanding, I want to make sure that staff had the same understanding, that we're going to look at that on an annual basis, just to make sure that expenditures aren't out of line and revenues aren't out of line. So we'll be continuing to look at that fund balance that Councilmember Prem Kumar referenced. But is that your understanding as staff as well?
Yes, that is our understanding, that this was a one-time for this year and that it would be evaluated each year.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that clarification for everyone. I appreciate it.
Okay, this is a public hearing, but we had no one signed up to speak. So with that, I'll turn it over to the council for any other discussions or a motion. Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Have a second from Councilmember Prem Kumar. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Prem Kumar, Matthew, and Hill, all in favor. Motion carries.
All right. Item number 10. Is also another public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Kien to once again read the item into the record.
Certainly. Thank you. This is a public hearing to receive public comment concerning the proposed 2024 municipal budget and consider approval of an ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the City of Coppell, Texas for the fiscal year of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025, and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Ready?
Good?
Good.
Okay.
No, it's all right. We didn't practice that part, did we?
Yes,
as far
no,
as the
we
handoff.
didn't. There you go.
Before Kim gets into the budget, I just wanted to provide a little background, some thoughts. The document set for approval tonight may seem like a mere collection of numbers, percentages, pie charts, and allocations, yet it represents something far more significant. It's a reflection of Coppell's community values, City Council's expectations, the city's organizational culture, principles, and priorities. When we allocate resources towards building a family community for a lifetime, Coppell City Council is investing in Coppell's well-being, growth, and sustainable future. Two recent dates I want you to be aware of, because they've influenced our budget for the last 16 years. October 28, 2008 and April 23, 2019. These were the dates Coppell's Vision 2030 and Vision 2040 community-driven strategic plans were adopted. The community we experience today directly reflects these and other planning documents that have been adopted through the years. Consider how every dollar is invested in building our family community, whether it's improving the redundancy of the city's water system, funding the many recreational amenities, events, and opportunities, expanding public safety through the construction of Fire Station 5, or maintaining the city's critical infrastructure, translates into tangible benefits. These investments foster a sense of belonging, offering crucial support to those in need, and build a foundation for a healthier, more connected community for all residents and businesses alike. Behind all these investments are employees who personally invest themselves in building the community through their public service and strive each day to make Coppell the place you want to be. Our budget is more than just a tax rate or expenditure amount. As identified in Coppell's Vision 2040 strategic plan, the budget is a powerful communication tool that gives presence to the city's aspirational future. When we prioritize service, we are making a statement about who we are and what we stand for. We are committed to using our resources wisely, ensuring that our financial decisions reflect our dedication to thoughtful stewardship and fostering a thriving and sustainable community. With that, I will turn it over to Kim to go over all those numbers and pie charts and percentages. So thank you, Kim.
Thank you. So as part of the budget process, a public hearing is to be conducted by the City Council to receive public input concerning the proposed 24-25 municipal budget. As part of the public hearing, I'll provide a brief overview of what is included in the proposed budget. But before I present the proposed budget, I would like to take a moment to explain the budget process. The budget process began in January with Council's retreat. For staff, it began in early February with the department directors and their staff developing their budgets based on information from the Council retreat. Their proposed budgets were submitted to the Strategic Financial Engagement Department in mid-March, and then departmental budget reviews with the City Manager's Office were held in April. A town hall meeting to obtain public input was also held in April. Staff held 4 budget workshops with Council, one in June to present the Crime Control and Prevention District budget, and then 3 in July. The proposed budget was filed in the City Secretary's office on August 5th and made available at the Coppell Library and posted to the city's website. I would also like to share the multiple ways used by the city's Communications Information Office to get the word out about the budget process. Our CIO team posted about 50 posts across social media platforms, sent out 4 news releases, included budget information in 12 new e-news publications, and budget information was shared on various news media, including Community Impact, Facebook events, Coppell Chronicle, the Coppell Gazette, and the Rambler. Information is also included in the city's cable channel and website. We did receive 7 emails to the budget input email and 1 question from a new e-news publication. And then one last item before I present the budget and the tax rate this evening. I would like to thank Council for the numerous hours that you've spent working with staff to develop this budget. You provided guidance that resulted in a budget that continues to provide exceptional service to our community and includes the items supported by the community in the 2040 plan. Again, thank you for your support and guidance through the budget process. I'd also like to thank my team. They're all here this evening, Jerry, Javier, Vanessa, and Jessica, and they are just a really strong team that have supported me and the whole organization through this process. So now we can begin this evening's public hearing on the proposed budget, which satisfies the public hearing requirements established by Local Government Code 102.006. Whoops. So the proposed budget is a balanced budget that maintains the city's infrastructure and enhances existing service levels. Maintaining the city's infrastructure and enhancing service levels are areas that staff understands are important to Council. For example, the proposed budget includes a transfer to the Infrastructure Maintenance Fund to fully fund the estimated cost to maintain city facilities and the city's traffic system through 2028. The budget is built around the assumption that the Rule 3.334 is in effect, a 3.499% increase in property tax revenue. It's built around a strategic use of the general fund's fund balance, and it maintains market competitiveness for our workforce. And last, the proposed budgeted expenditures are 7.75% more than the prior year, and that is after backing out the one-time transfer to the IMF fund. So to fund the estimated cost, that's to fund the estimated cost of facility and traffic projects again through 28. So total general fund revenues are projected to be approximately $74.6 million for the next fiscal year. This is an increase of almost $5 million or 7.2% from the current year adopted budget. 95% of the approximate $5 million increase in revenues is attributed to 3 revenue categories. Those revenue categories are property taxes, sales tax, and interest income, with property tax making up about $1.6 million of the increase, sales tax about $2.2 million of the increase, and interest income makes up $1 million of the increase as we increase this revenue source from $500,000 to $1.5 million. If you're looking for where interest income is on the chart, it's included in the other revenue category, which is the gold section of the chart. Specifically, this slide shows 8 revenue categories that contribute to the general fund revenues. Again, first is the property tax revenue, and as the pie chart shows, property tax revenue, which is the blue portion of the chart, is the primary source of revenue of the general fund. This revenue source represents $45.5 million, or 61% of total revenues of the general fund. Property tax revenue is budgeted based on a 3.499% increase in this revenue category, which calculates to a 0.392071 maintenance and operations tax rate. This tax rate is a 7% decrease when compared to the fiscal year 24 maintenance and operations portion of the property tax rate, which was set at 0.4216666. The proposed maintenance and operations rate is more than the no new revenue rate, but less than the voter approval rate as determined by Chapter 26 of the Texas Tax Code. And more will be presented on the tax rate when we get to that public hearing. I'll also provide more information concerning the impact of changes proposed by council at the August 13th work session later on in this presentation. The next revenue category is sales tax, represented by the orange area. Sales tax is estimated at almost $15.7 million, or about 21% of the total proposed general fund revenues. And as mentioned during the Crime Control and Prevention District presentation, we do continue to budget sales tax as if the changes to Rule 3.334 is in effect. We are budgeting a 5% increase over the fiscal year 24 adopted sales tax revenue, plus an additional increase based on information that the community development team has learned as they work with the various businesses in the community to gain more insight regarding the impact of the change the rule will have on each specific business. So as you can see from this graph, the majority of revenue received by the general fund is from property tax and sales tax. These 2 revenue categories account for about $61.2 million, or 82% of total general fund revenues. The remaining 6 categories represent almost $13.4 million, or 18% of the general fund revenues. Next, I'll cover the general fund expenditures. This slide shows operating expenditures by classification for fiscal year 24 compared to the proposed expenditures budget for fiscal year 25. The one-time transfer to the Capital Replacement and Enterprise Solutions Replacement Funds have been removed from the fiscal year 24, and the one-time transfer to the IMF fund in fiscal year 25 has also been removed. The graph is only operating expenditures of the general fund. Fiscal year 25 operating expenditures totals approximately $74.5 million. This is a $5.4 million or 7.75% increase from fiscal year 24 adopted budget. The primary reason for the increase in operating expenditures is the almost $5.7 million increase in salary and benefits. This increase, along with the slight increase in maintenance and services, were offset by decreases in supplies, capital, and transfers. So this slide also shows that in both years, the largest portion of the pie is for salary and benefits, and it's represented by the navy blue area of the chart. Since the city is a service organization, we would expect salary and benefits to be the largest portion. Salary and benefits represented 66% of total operating expenditures in fiscal year 24 adopted. For fiscal year 25 proposed, salary and benefits represent 69%. This is a 12% increase from prior year adopted. The increase in the fiscal year 25 salaries and benefits is the result of adding 2 positions for community development. One position is a senior code compliance position, and the other is an economic development coordinator position. Salary and benefits also incorporates the results of a compensation study, which provides merit, market, and one-time adjustments necessary to maintain market competitiveness for our workforce. Of the $5.7 million increase in salaries, $3.9 million or 69% is for increases for police, fire, and public works employees. The other portion of the pie chart I'd like to point out is for transfers, which is the light blue area on both charts. This classification was 4% in fiscal year 24 adopted budget and is 3% in fiscal year 25 proposed budget. The reason for the decrease is we did not include the annual transfer for facilities and traffic, since the proposed budget includes fully funding those 2 areas for the fiscal years 2025 through 2028. The annual transfer to the IMF from the general fund is normally $190,000 for traffic, and in 2024 it was $1.2 million for facilities. Similar to how we replenish the capital replacement fund and enterprise solutions replacement funds, future years will include an annual transfer to the IMF to replenish the fund for the operations portion of the large transfer proposed in this year's budget. So this next slide shows the fiscal year 25 proposed budgeted expenditures for the general fund by function, meaning expenditures are grouped together by government function. For example, public safety includes expenditures for the cost to provide public safety related services to the community, like police and fire. The chart on the left includes the one-time transfer to IMF. The chart on the right shows expenditures by function, but excludes the one-time transfer. The inclusion of the $31 million one-time transfer to the Infrastructure Maintenance Fund is included in the general category in the chart on the left. Including the transfer in the analysis skews the information. For example, when the one-time transfer is included in the chart on the left, general government is almost 44% of total expenditures, as shown in the blue section of the chart. When it's excluded, general government is only 20% of the total expenditures of the general fund, as shown by the blue section in the chart on the right. The chart on the right also shows that together public safety and public works makes up 57% of total expenditures of the general fund when the one-time transfer is excluded. So this next slide shows total revenues and operating expenditures of the general fund. It shows that revenues exceed expenditures in fiscal year 24 adopted and the fiscal year 25 proposed budget. The purpose of this slide is to show that the city's adopted fiscal year 24 and proposed fiscal year 25 operating expenditures are covered by budgeted revenues. The chart then shows the one-time transfers made in fiscal year 24 and 25. In fiscal year 24, about $6.3 million of general fund balance was used to fund capital and enterprise solution replacement funds. In fiscal year 25, approximately $31 million of the general fund balance is used to fund the IMF for traffic and facility projects. This slide shows that the use of fund balance is for one-time transfers and not for annual operations. Next is the debt service fund. This fund is used to account for the principal and interest on outstanding debt. The fund derives its revenue from the property tax, which is represented by the blue section of the chart on the left. Property tax necessary to fund the principal and interest due in fiscal year 25 on bonds outstanding is about $8.2 million. Interest earnings is estimated at $10,000, and transfers in totals almost $3.5 million and is shown in gray. And it represents the amounts from the Water Sewer Fund and the Coppell Recreation Development Corporation Fund for their portion of the principal and interest payments on certificate of obligation bonds issued for water and sewer and Coppell Recreation Development Corporation projects. The expenditures associated with servicing all certificate of obligation and general obligation debt totals almost $12 million, with interest paid on the debt budgeted at about $5.3 million, and it's shown in the green area. The yellow area represents the bond principal, which is approximately $6.6 million. Agency fees total $10,000. So total general obligation and certificate of obligation tax-supported debt is about $104.6 million. Repayment is fairly rapid, with 52% being retired over the next 10 years and 80% in 15 years. All bonds currently outstanding will be repaid by 2044. Next, the city has 20 funds that, to comply with legislation and/or governmental accounting standards, are classified as special revenue funds, and 3 funds that are classified as internal service funds. Each special revenue fund has a dedicated revenue source, and the expenditures are restricted to a specific purpose. The revenue sources for the first 6 funds shown in the first column are from fines and forfeitures, for example, traffic tickets. The Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund, the last fund shown in the first column, receives revenues from occupancy tax remitted by the hotels located in the city, as well as occupancy tax remitted from short-term rentals. The funds shown in the second column receive revenue from various sources. For example, the Donation Special Revenue Fund is where we record donations from individuals or businesses who have specified how they would like their donations to be used. The Drainage Utility District revenue is from the stormwater fee on water bills. Rolling Oaks Memorial Cemetery revenue source is from those who purchase burial rights and services from the cemetery. These 17 special revenue funds do not receive any funding from property taxes or sales tax, and the revenue received is restricted by legislation, ordinance, or donors. The 3 special revenue funds shown at the bottom of column 2, the Crime Prevention District, the Infrastructure Maintenance Fund, and the Coppell Recreation Development Corp, are funded with sales tax, but not property tax. Expenditures of these funds are limited by local government code and uses authorized by voters when the sales tax was authorized. So specifically, the Infrastructure Maintenance Fund and Crime Prevention District each receive sales tax equal to 1/4 of 1%. Sales tax collected by the IMF Fund is for street maintenance, and the sales tax collected by the Crime Control Prevention District is used for crime prevention programs. The Coppell Recreation Development Corporation Fund receives sales tax equal to 1/2 of 1% for projects that qualify under 4B legislation. This is also where the revenue expenditures of the Art Center are recorded. In addition, the Coppell Recreation Development Corporation Debt Service Fund receives a portion of the sales tax collected to repay the principal and interest on CRDC-related debt. The remaining 3 funds are internal service funds. The city's internal service funds are the Self-Funded Health Fund, the Capital Replacement Fund, and the Enterprise Solutions Replacement Fund. These funds are used to account for the cost of goods or services provided by these funds to other funds or departments. The last fund is the Water and Sewer Fund. The Water and Sewer Fund is classified as an enterprise fund. Enterprise funds are used when the intent is to recover the cost of providing the good or service through user fees and charges. Proposed water and sewer revenue is almost $24.1 million. As shown on this slide, the major source of revenue is the sale of water. The city receives 66.4% of revenue, the revenue budgeted, or almost $16 million from this revenue source. The next largest revenue source of revenue for the Water and Sewer Fund is the charge for sewer treatment services. The fund receives about 30.7%, or almost $7.4 million from this source. So water sales plus sewer sales equals almost $23.4 million, or 97.4% of the total projected revenue of this fund. The remaining 2.9%, or about $695,000 in revenue, is from interest income, impact fees, and other revenues. The proposed budget is based on the rate study performed last year, which included rate increase. However, staff will review the actual results of the fiscal year 24, how it turns out compared to the rate study, and bring to this council for consideration a recommendation regarding rates, and that will occur in November-December time period. Next, I'll go over the proposed expenses of the Water and Sewer Fund, which total about $23.3 million. This is an increase of approximately 12%, or $2.5 million. The reason for the increase is expenses are primarily related to $1.7 million increase in the services classification, the gray portion of the chart, and a $455,000 increase in the capital classification, the yellow portion of the chart. For services, the increase is primarily related to the cost of water and the cost of sewer. Specifically, an increase in the cost of water totaling about $1.2 million. The volume rate increased 10% from 0.05150 to 0.05663 per 1,000 gallons. The demand rate increased 8.7% from about 328,000 to almost 357,000 per million gallons of daily demand. Therefore, the budget for the demand portion of the cost of water increased from $6.4 million to almost $7 million, and we pay this portion of the rate no matter how much water we pull. The cost of sewer increase is about $154,000. The actual increase in the rate charged by TRA is 9.9%. The increase reflected in the proposed budget is only 3%. This was accomplished through all of the inflow and infiltration work the Public Works Department has been doing. We have decreased our wastewater flow to TRA from 3.5 million gallons per day to 3.3 million gallons per day. Therefore, we are not experiencing the full impact of the 9.9% increase in the rate charged by TRA. This is an example of staff being good stewards of city resources by controlling what we can control, the amount of flow we send to TRA. Regarding capital outlay, this classification changes from year to year based on projects. Fiscal year 25, the increase in capital outlay is related to the rehab of the DeForest lift station and a new chemical analyzer. Next, this slide shows expenses by division. It shows the cost of water and the cost of sewer division makes up 59% of the expenses of the Water and Sewer Fund. And these expenses are contracted costs. Utility billing, utility operations, and combined services make up about 31% of total expenses, and debt service represents about 10% of the total expenditures of the Water and Sewer Fund. Now, this next slide provides the changes to the proposed budget discussed by Council at the August 13th work session. The items were discussed to be amended were to increase interest revenue by $300,000, so from 1.5 million to 1.8, and it moves the anticipated interest rate from 2.5% to 3%. It includes a decrease in the property tax revenue of $420,000, and it also reduces expenditures by $120,000. The discussion was to amend these items to impact the proposed tax rate and tax bill. This slide shows these changes would move the proposed tax rate from 0.462222 to 0.458632. Instead of the tax bill on the average residential home increasing about $75 for the year, it would increase about $56. Council has been provided the language that must be used if council decides to amend the proposed budget, and then the tax rate with the changes shown on this slide, and the tax rate would be done during the tax rate public hearing. So in summary, the proposed budget includes the anticipated revenues and expenditures for not only the general fund, but all funds of the city. The total impact of the fund balance of all funds of the city is a decrease of almost $7.1 million. The decrease in fund balance is not from normal operations, but from strategic uses of fund balance for one-time uses, for projects that cross more than one fiscal year, and identified uses that comply with restrictions specific to our various special revenue funds. As previously shown, the fund balance of the general fund is expected to decrease by $31 million for a one-time use of fund balance to fully fund the infrastructure maintenance fund for traffic and facility-related projects. However, the fund balance of the IMF fund will increase $31 million. So the net impact of this is on fund balance of all funds of the city is zero. As stated, the 7.1 use of fund balance is the result of planned strategic uses of fund balance, projects, and identified uses that comply with restrictions specific to the various special revenue funds. For example, expenditures in the Capital and Enterprise Replacement Fund totals almost $1.1 million. The city fully funded these funds and is now making purchases from the fund, which will be replenished evenly over the useful life of the capital items purchased. The Crime Control and Prevention District budget has included in it the full cost of $1.6 million for the 5-year Axon contract. The Drainage Utility District is using approximately $1.1 million of fund balance for the Woodridge Bank Stabilization Project. As discussed with council at the June retreat, the Debt Service Fund is using a portion of fund balance to maintain the current INS tax rate. And the Coppell Recreation Development Corporation is using a portion of fund balance for capital projects, specifically MacArthur Park Playground and the Middle School North Turf Replacement. Other funds using fund balance are the Tree Preservation Fund, Cemetery, Self-Funded, and HOT funds. All are planned uses of fund balance. And this concludes the presentation on the proposed budget, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Tien? Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Tien, I want to thank you and your team for working hard to put this budget. My question for you is, for the proposed budget, it's 7.75 increase in expenditure. Could you please explain what are the items that listed in this increase?
Okay, so are you talking about the overall budget?
Yeah. The $5.5 million increase.
On the general fund?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Okay. So I believe it's about the majority of the increase is related to salary and benefits. And that, I want to get you the costs that I said. The salary and benefits is increasing $5.7 million. And then the overall budget is less than that because, as I said, we have some decreases that are offsetting the increase in the salary and benefits. So as I said, supplies, capital, and transfers went down. Transfers went down because we are fully funding the IMF, and so we are not making the one-time transfer for traffic and facilities. Instead, we included that in the lump sum, and then in future years, we'll treat that as a replenishment like we do the other funds.
Okay, just to follow up, I know we used to spend about 40% or 40+% of sales tax we collected. Today we are at 60%. Could you please explain why?
So, you know, in the original, when we first found out about the rule change, I believe we thought we were going to lose 60%. But the economy has changed, right? So inflation, we have seen the consumer price index increase. In fact, from January of 23 to January of 24, it increased to over 5%. And so as prices go up, that means the amount of sales tax we're going to collect is going to go up just based on what we think we're going to collect. Because if people are charging more, the percentage is going to generate more revenue. So we have been adjusting the sales tax by 5% to adjust for the economy. And then as the community development team has been meeting with businesses, we've been learning more as we go along, and we're making adjustments related to that.
Yeah, I'm talking about the expenditure. You know, we moved from 40% spending on sales tax to 60% we are spending today.
Sales tax isn't an expenditure, so I'm not following.
No, the revenue we are collecting on the sales tax.
Correct.
We are spending about 60% today, correct?
No.
You're not?
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
So in 2019, 2020, when the rule was first implemented, it was going to go into effect in January. So we made immediate reductions in our expenditures, expecting about $6 million less in our sales tax at the time. Since 2020, we have continued to meet with our businesses, and going through the process that we've gone through on the legal side, we have been adjusting the sales tax accordingly. So it was not a fixed number at 45%. It was a number for us to start at that first year. Since that time, that sales tax is actually, the utilization of that sales tax, we've been inching it up as we've continued to learn more about our businesses. So from a expenditure standpoint, it's a whole budget. It is not just sales tax. So it's all of, in this case, using this year's budget, the entire $69 million, which is property tax, sales tax, transfers, capital, and so forth. So it's not a matter of we're spending 45% or we're spending 60%. We are spending what the adopted budget is. It's a part of that expenditure. How we calculate the sales tax is based on the interviews with the businesses and our understanding of the law if it were to go into effect.
Council, any other questions for Ms. Tien or Mr. Land? Thank you very much. Do you need to take a break now?
Yeah.
We're going to do the public hearing right now, so you get to take a break. This is a public hearing. However, we had no one signed up to speak. So therefore, Council, it's back to you, Mayor Pro Tem Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to say to City Manager and your team and our financial engagement team, the work that you guys put into this is I don't think I have a full grasp of all the work that you guys put in, let alone the average citizen in town. I want to make sure that I express my sincere gratitude on behalf of the entire city for all of the work that you guys do. What I love about what you guys do is that you're following direction of council. And, you know, I think about going back to our January retreat and the direction that we, that we came together and we gave the staff and Mike and his team, and just really appreciate the consistency, the long-term visioning and consideration that the staff does to look out for the future benefit of the city of Coppell and every citizen that we have here. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move to close the public hearing and approve agenda item 10.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I have discussion. There's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the. Thank you. There's a motion on the floor.
Sorry, Mayor.
I either need a second, or we will, or the motion will die. Council member. Oh, I'm sorry. I saw Brianna first, so I'm going to call on her. Council member Hinojosa Smith.
So I have a second, and then I have a comment.
We will have discussion in just a moment. So I do have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Hinojosa Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to take a moment to make a couple of comments. So I wrote that. So the budget process is complex, and I can't think of a better finance team than the one that's here before us. They've spent countless hours preparing, calculating, explaining, recalculating, and re-explaining our city's budget and ensuring the stability of our financial status. And to each one of you, I want to say thank you. What I've always appreciated about the team before us and their predecessors, along with our city manager, deputy city managers, and deputy city managers and directors, is that they look at our budget line by line as well as holistically. They consider their wants, their needs, and then align those with the needs of our community and our citizens, always making sure that they are not compromising key services expected by our citizens, such as public safety. They do a phenomenal job of planning for today, tomorrow, and the future in a very prudent manner. Our city's budget has been more complex than usual over the last few years, and we have had to take into consideration several unknowns. Again, our staff has been overly diligent in making sure that in the midst of unknowns and ambiguity, Coppell remains fiscally responsible and does not compromise our AAA rating and is prepared for the worst while hoping for the best, especially regarding our sales tax legislation. As such, I'm confident in the proposed tax rate that Ms. Tien has so eloquently explained, and appreciate everyone that has been a part of this budget process. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hill, did you have something that you wanted to say? No. Okay. Councilmember Walker?
Mic on here. Thank you, Mayor. Why don't you just let Mr. Matthew go first?
Okay.
No, you go ahead.
Are you sure? Okay. Well, I just want to thank Mike, you and your team, and Kim, and everyone in the financial services. Y'all are amazing. I really appreciate everything you did to respond to everything that we threw at you, that I threw at you. Y'all really lead with just a real servant's heart. And I agree with what Brianna said. Y'all work so hard on this, and it's incredibly complex. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around part of it. So, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for your responsiveness to us. And I want to thank everyone on council, and my colleagues, for just all the insight and all the wisdom that you share. I'm just learning every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Matthew, I think you were next. Flip a coin.
Because I spoke already twice.
Thank you, Mayor. Kim and the finance team, awesome job. Being a new time council member, I've come to appreciate how complex this whole budget process is. I have been following it from the other side for a long time, but once you get into the weeds of it, I'm going to repeat a lot of what my fellow council members said. It's complex, and I've had a fantastic time learning the whole process by working with them. Just in terms of process, with Vision 2030 and 2040, and all of the boards and commissions, the residents really tell the staff and the city council what they want for their city. There is a certain expectation of quality of life that we have to listen to. And what a lot of residents may not appreciate is this budget process is a long winding thing. So for the budget that goes into effect October 1 of this year, real planning starts January 1 of this year. So almost 9 months back. And actually, the city has a 5-year plan. So effectively for October 1, 2024, you have been planning back in 2019. So there's a lot of thing that goes into effect. And most people that come from an corporate background, you don't realize you may be used to coming up with a budget and implementing it in a month or two. City and the state laws don't allow us to do that. So I appreciate that this was very complex. And for several of you that have been following the budget sessions, you will probably have noticed that there was an opportunity where we definitely tried to see if we could not increase the property tax bill. I think the discussion was done in very good faith. But at the end of the day, this is a huge moving, like a tanker, and you can't change directions on a dime. The council gave clear instructions to the staff back in the January retreat, and to try to change any of that in 2 weeks' notice was not the best thing to do. But you all came through, you showed a lot of flexibility, and I appreciate that. And for those that are not very happy with what the budget is or what the tax rate is, we are always listening to you. Give us time to work with you all. There is a certain expectation from the majority of the city that we have to listen to, but all voices are being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Some of you watching online emailed me and called me and expressing some concern over increasing the budget expenditure. I just wanted to let you know, like Councilmember Prem Kumar expressed, our budget process starts in January, and the staff provides us a list of things that we need to rank from use only, fallback, status, and emphasis. It's 1, 4, and 7. So we all get to grade from 7 pillars what we are going to do for the following year. Based on the average numbers that they calculate, we start our new programs, we hire staff to accommodate that programs. That's how the budget process starts. Based on that, the staff put together a budget, and that's what we have today. And some of you asked me about the majority of council going forward. In our process, it's only take 4 council members to approve each item. It's not 7. 4 people gives thumbs up to mayor, and we move forward with the item. That's how our process works. So we don't have a line item veto power for any of the council members. So with that said, the tax rate for this year is lower than last year. Therefore, I'll be supporting the budget. Thank you.
Council, well, I'm going to make a comment. Councilmember Matthew, I don't know if you looked in, but your comment was absolutely correct. And in fact, this is the lowest tax rate that this city has had since prior to 1984. So it's the lowest in over 40 years, so which is a phenomenal achievement. And the other thing I wanted to compliment Kim and her team on is you're really trying to hit a moving target with 3.334 changing all the time. And so that's only adding to the complexity that everyone up here has already acknowledged. So thank you for all your work. What's that? Thank you, Austin. Yes. Never mind. Do we have any other comments? Seeing none, I will accept a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I have my little scratch pad here, and the Mayor Pro Tem is reading my notes. So all in favor?
Hinojosa Smith, Nevels, all in favor. All those opposed? Walker, Prem Kumar, Matthew, and I'm sorry, Mr. Hill, were you in favor? Did I miss you again?
He said he was in favor.
Okay, sorry, motion fails.
So what?
I apologize. All those in favor? We have Hinojosa Smith, Nevels in favor, and Hill in favor. Thank you. And all those opposed? We have Walker, Carroll, Prem Kumar, and Matthew. Motion fails. Thank you.
Councilmember Walker.
Mayor Mays, I move to close the public hearing and approve item 10 with the proposed amendments to to the proposed budget and proposed budget ordinance, reduce property tax revenues of the general fund by $300,000, and increase interest income of the general fund by $300,000. The net impact on general fund revenues and total revenues of the city is zero. Decrease general fund expenditures by $120,000 from $105,615,584 to $105,495,584. Decrease total expenditures of all funds of the city from $180,057,867 to $179,937,867.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Prem Kumar. Is there any discussion? I take it the dittos from the previous discussion go for Kim and her team? So-
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa, Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Prem Kumar, Matthew, and Hill, all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember Walker, I apologize. I was trying to, in my mind, I knew that you were trying to make a motion, but I was thinking that the public hearing had been closed, but it had not because the motion failed. So that's why I hesitated, and I apologize for that.
No apologies necessary, Mayor.
Okay, item number 11 is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Tien to read this into the record as well.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing to receive public comment concerning the proposed 2024-25 tax rate of .462222 and consider approval of an ordinance of the City of Coppell, Texas, levying the ad valorem taxes for the tax year 2024 at .462222 on each $100 assessed value of taxable property, on which .392071 is for operations and maintenance and .070151 is for interest and sinking, and authorizing the mayor to sign. Okay, so this next public hearing is on the tax rate. And so first I need to share some various legal requirements that need to be communicated before I present the information on the proposed tax rate and the certified property values. Pursuant to Section 2605D of the Texas Property Tax Code, the governing body of a taxing unit other than a school district may not adopt a tax rate that exceeds the lower of the voter approval tax rate or the no new revenue tax rate calculated as provided by this chapter until the governing body has held a public hearing on the proposed tax rate and has otherwise complied with Section 2606 and 26065. The proposed tax rate of .462222 is higher than the no new revenue rate of .441134, but lower than the voter approval rate of .464202. which includes unused increments, and it is the rate required to be published. The Truth in Taxation worksheet tracks the difference between the adopted rate and the voter approval tax rate for the prior 3 years. Those differences are considered unused increments, and the sum of the prior 3 years is added to the current voter approved rate calculation to determine the voter approval rate with the unused increments. This is the highest property tax rate the council could adopt without going to the voters. The voter approval rate before unused increments is .462226. The proposed tax rate is less than this rate too. Because the proposed tax rate is greater than the no new revenue rate, a public hearing is required. This first slide shows the tax rate is the total, in total, and broken out between maintenance and operations and interest and sinking. Maintenance and operations, which is the portion of the tax rate that is used to fund operations of the city, and it's represented in the green on this bar graph. The other part is the interest and sinking. It's the blue portion of the bar graph. This is the portion that is used to pay the principal and interest payments on the debt incurred by the city. The proposed tax rate for fiscal year 24-25 is again 0.462222 with 0.392071 or 84.82% being used to fund operations and 0.070151 or 15.18% for debt service. The proposed tax rate of 0.462222 does raise $2,384,995 more in revenue from property taxes than was raised in fiscal year 24. Specifically, property tax revenue of the general fund, which is the M&O portion of the tax rate, will increase $1,550,896 to support primarily public safety and public works. And the property tax revenue of the debt service, which is the interest and sinking portion of the tax rate, will increase $834,099 for payments of principal and interest on bonds. In addition, $191,213 of total increase is from new property added to the tax roll. The property tax rate of 0.462222 is 6.02% less than the current 2023-24 tax rate of 0.491818. So this slide shows a comparison to prior year of certified values by category as both a numerical comparison, which is the chart on the left, and as a bar chart, which is on the right. The city's total taxable valuation is a little over $11.7 billion, which is 11.31% higher than last year. The 11.31% or almost $1.2 billion increase in taxable assessed value in the numerical chart shows the results are attributed to a 22.73% increase in commercial property values, an increase of 8.19% in residential property values, and a 2.05% increase in business personal property. So overall, residential properties make up about 53% of total property values, and commercial and business personal property make up 47%. This slide breaks out the almost $1.2 billion of growth in property values between new construction and reappraisals. The first section of this slide shows the breakout of new construction by property category. You can see that the new construction totals about $41 million, or about 3.5% of the $1.2 billion increase in property value. This chart also shows the value of new construction by property classification. For example, the commercial classification makes up about $31 million, or almost 3% of the total $1.2 billion increase in value. The growth from residential new construction accounts for almost $10 million, or less than 1% of the total growth in property values. New construction, which is excluded from the new revenue tax calculation, again represents about $191,000 of the proposed fiscal year 25 maintenance and operations property tax revenue, which is revenue of the general fund. The next section shows the amount of growth attributed to reappraisals. Reappraisals are initiated by the appraisal district, and reappraisals make up about $1.1 billion, or about 93.5% of the total increase in value. Commercial reappraisals make up about $648 million, or 54.5% of the increase in total property values, and residential properties make up almost $464 million, or 39% of the total growth. Growth in the value from business personal property is about $35 million and represents less than 3% of the total increase in property values. This slide is a comparison of the average fiscal year 24 tax bill to the fiscal year 25 tax bill. The first section of this slide shows the tax value for a property receiving a homestead exemption is $537,331. The middle section is where you find the fiscal year 24 tax rate and the fiscal year 25 proposed tax rate at 0.462222. The amount circled in red at the bottom shows the change in the tax bill of a residential property receiving the homestead exemption. Based on the average home value of a residential property with the homestead exemption, the city's portion of the property tax bill will increase about $75 for the year, or $6 per month. This represents an increase in the city's portion of the tax bill of about 3%. So although there was almost a 10% increase in the average assessed value, the decrease in the tax rate of slightly over 6% reduces the increase in the tax bill to 3%. This is an example of the impact of SB 2 and demonstrates the seesaw effect. I think it's also worth noting that the city has no involvement in determining property values, as this is the responsibility of the appraisal district. The appraisal district establishes values in accordance with legislation set by the state. This slide shows the average taxable value of a property receiving both a homestead exemption and an over 65 exemption, and that average property value is $437,331. Again, the proposed tax rate of 0.46222 is used to calculate the average tax bill for a property receiving both these exemptions. You will notice that the average tax bill for a property receiving both the homestead and over 65 exemptions will increase almost $105, or $8.75 a month. The tax bill for a property with both the homestead and over 65 exemption is approximately $462 less than a tax bill for a property with only the homestead exemption. We did use the same average home value for both presentations. However, historically, the average over 65 home value has been less than the homestead property. Now, this slide shows both the proposed tax rate and the tax rate discussed by council at the August 13th work session. The tax rate shown for scenario A is based on an increase in interest revenue of $300,000, a decrease in property tax revenue of $420,000, and a $120,000 reduction in expenditures. This discussion was to amend these items, as was just voted on by council, to impact the proposed tax rate and the tax bill. This slide shows these changes would move the proposed tax rate from 0.462222 to 0.458632. Instead of the tax bill on the average residential home increasing about $75 for the year, it would increase about $56 or $19 less than the initially proposed amount. Just like the budget item, you were provided the language to use if you wish to amend the proposed tax rate. And this concludes the presentation on the proposed tax rate, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Tien? Okay, this is a public hearing, and we did not have anybody signed up to speak. So with that, I will be open to a motion. Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we go with the 11 here? Okay. Yeah. I pose to close the public hearing and go with the motion to adopt scenario A, tax rate of 0.458632. Need to read the whole thing?
Yes.
I move to close the public hearing and amend the proposed property tax rate ordinance. And I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.458632, which is effectively a 3.96% increase in the tax rate.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second? Councilmember Walker, is there any discussion? Councilmember Nevels, Mayor Pro Tem Nevels, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Tien, just a quick question. So in scenario A that we're talking about right now, and if you don't have this number offhand, I apologize, but I know we have several interested parties, especially in the audience. So the homestead exemption cost on the average home value would be $56.07. Do you have that with the senior and homestead?
I do not.
Okay,
I do not. I'm
again,
sorry.
So, but you said it was a $19 decrease?
It is.
Okay, so we should expect something pretty similar from that based on the homestead. It was about $100, right?
Mhm.
But you did mention in your presentation that overall with the homestead and the senior, there's about $400 less that they're paying.
Correct.
Okay, so just to make sure we got all that, even though they're slightly different number, our over 65 is going to be more savings for our seniors.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Just wanted to say that out loud.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Matthew?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a clarification to people who are watching. The advertised rate was 0.462222, but we are adopting the rate 0.458632, which is lower than what was advertised.
Is there any other discussion? Then seeing none, all in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Prem Kumar, Matthew, Hill.
Please try again later.
All in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. We've got sound effects coming from the Mayor Pro Tem over here. Okay. Next is item number 12, which is consider ratification of the vote of the fiscal year 2024-25 annual budget, which results in more revenue from ad valorem taxes than the previous year. Ms. Tian, I'm guessing you have some required language that you have to read.
I do have some required language. No slides.
Would you please
yes.
enlighten us?
So this last item is required pursuant to section 102.007007C of the Texas Local Government Code. When a budget raises $1 more of revenue from property tax than was raised in the previous year, this separate vote of the governing body is required to ratify this increase. This separate agenda item is required because the fiscal year 24-25 annual operating budget will raise more revenue from property taxes than last year's budget. The Strategic Financial Engagement Department does recommend approval of this agenda item.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions for Ms. Tian? Seeing none, I will accept a motion. Councilmember Prem Kumar.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve item 12.
Thank you. Do I have a second by Councilmember Carroll? Any discussion? All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carroll, Nevels, Prem Kumar, Matthew, and Hill. All in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 13 is the city manager report with project updates, future agendas, and direction from work session. Mr. Land.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For everyone following the lawsuit, this coming Thursday, we do have our summary judgment hearing Thursday afternoon. So we will find out more. We may not have an answer come Thursday afternoon, but we at least find out more about the pleadings and everything. The contractor is continuing to work on South Beltline to install the digital sign. On Woodhurst, the utilities are complete, and they are working on paving from Duck Pond Park to Hertz. DART is currently working on the South Coppell Road crossing, and Fire Station 5, the grade beams are complete and underground utilities are underway. I like the way this is worded. The first big slab pour is expected in a couple of weeks. So apparently there's excitement about getting ready to pour some concrete. So that's it, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item number 14 of the mayor and council reports on recent and upcoming events. We, the city, are currently seeking passionate individuals to be part of our 10 boards and commissions that help guide the development, future needs, regulations, and much more for the city of Coppell. Applications are now open on the city website. Applications will be accepted through Friday, September 20th, 2024, and must be completed during this time period to be considered. Interviews for these positions will be held during the first and second weeks of October. I also wanted to report that we're not quite out of summer yet, but due to our conservation measures, which we will have a report and work session later next month, the annual usage of water by the city was trimmed as we hoped it would. So thank you to all of our citizens who have participated in the program. It has been successful, and we're very thankful. Item number 15 is city council or council member reports concerning items of community involvement with no action or deliberation permitted. We have a report on MetroCrest services by Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the Coppell stats from the MetroCrest from year to date, October 2023 to July 2024. The 737 unduplicated residents have been provided service. 626 residents visited the food pantry 1,223 times, which is about 84,256 pounds distributed. Through our summer feeding program, it's called SAC Summer Hunger Program, 51 Coppell ISD students were provided 4,590 meals over the course of the summer. 77 households utilized workforce development service to prepare them for a successful job search. 28 households received emergency rent and utility assistance totaling 23,271. The good news is that demand for rent assistance has declined. Couple of reports we have. North Texas Giving Day will be on September 19th, 2024. This is an important day for nonprofits to raise funds and to expand awareness of their mission. I hope all of the Coppell residents participate in giving North Texas Giving Day. The next item is the gala, MetroCrest Empower Gala, is on November 16th at the Renaissance Hotel in Addison. And that's all I have for the report from MetroCrest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 16 are public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. I believe Mayor Pro Tem has an item.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the liaison to Coppell ISD, I felt compelled to share a little bit of information about what's going on with our neighbors over there. So just a note from Superintendent Brad Hunt. He said, Coppell ISD Board of Trustees has approved their budget and tax rate for the 2024-2025 school year. The board has also called for a voter approval tax ratification election, or a VATER, if you ever hear that term. And that will be held on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. For more information about the VATER, you can visit coppellisd.com/VATER. And just so you know, Coppell ISD will be hosting VATER information sessions for parents and community members to learn more about what that is and how it's going to, they'll be on the budget. The first session was held earlier this evening at 6 p.m. at Coppell Middle School East. There are two more upcoming sessions, Tuesday, September 3rd at 6 p.m. at Middle School North, and Wednesday, September 11th at 6 p.m. at Coppell Middle School West. And I say that as the city of, or the Coppell City Council liaison, just a reminder to our citizens that Coppell ISD is a separate governmental entity from the city of Coppell and the Coppell City Council. So just wanted to make sure that that's clear, but I do encourage all of our citizens to go and educate themselves about what the VATER is and how that is affecting our neighbors at Coppell ISD. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any other public service announcements? Seeing none, item number 17, there was no necessary action from the executive session, so therefore, it being 9:13 p.m., we are adjourned from the city council business.